Maverick 100.9 Aggie Lands Country Alternative. It's Corliss, and I've got a very exciting interview today, mostly just for me because we get to nerd out on music and radio. My friend Will Riggs from Sons of Bocephus is here. How are you, Will?
I am doing great, Corliss. Thank you so much for having us on, and I thank you for reaching out. We've been super excited about our debut single to Texas radio, and we're so glad that it's starting to catch on. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, I'm excited for you as well. Just the name alone really throws you through a loop. Sons of Bocephus, and you see that come up, and you're like, "What?" So, Will, explain, because I know you are not the son of Bocephus.
No, so it's kind of like when we started coming up with the names, we had actually came up with the idea to do a Hank Williams Jr. tribute band, and we had made up all these names, and we looked at Sons of Bocephus as kind of like, we say we're the sons of the South, right? Obviously, we're not sons of the South. It's just we were born and raised on Southern living. Well, we were all born and raised. If you were a young boy in Texas, you were raised on hunting, fishing, football, and Hank Williams Jr.
Yes.
And so that's kind of how we came up with the Sons of Bocephus. But we had actually came up with about 15 other names, and we just came back to it, and we were sitting at the table, and I was like, it's got to be Sons of Bocephus, because the SOB is so marketable that it's not even funny.
Now I can call you an SOB anytime I want.
And I won't even get mad about it,
Oh gosh, it's funny, but I love it. I love it. And you are releasing Forgotten Man. Tell me a little bit about Forgotten Man.
So Forgotten Man is a song that our lead guitar player, Ignatius Applewhite, and we wrote this song actually about 6 years ago, which was long before the Sons of Bocephus. And we added it to our live show back in January. It's really a tribute to veterans. It's trying to bring light to the forgotten sacrifices of our veterans, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I mean, they give everything in defense of this nation. And then in a lot of regards, they come home and they're discarded, and people don't understand the sacrifices that they've made in their lives for us to live free in this country. And we wrote that about 6 years ago, and we felt that we were in the perfect moment in history, especially in the history of our country right now, that this song would really, really impact and really bring light to those sacrifices of our veterans.
I think that's really cool. Now, did you or anybody in the band serve, or is this just something that, just is kind of close to your heart?
It's my whole family serves. Matter of fact, my brother is a Master Chief in the Navy. He is stationed in Pensacola. He's actually just going through the retirement phases. His last day as a Master Chief in the United States Navy is November 30th. So, he's going through that exit phase, which we talk about it all the time. He's like, this is probably the most stressful time I've ever had in the entire time I've been in the Navy, is this outro part.
Oh,
what am I going to do?
Well, my dad served in the Navy right out of high school. Not long. He did it 6 years, but he loved it. And he told me the stories my entire life. Well, then later on in his life, he got kind of this second chance, and he was hired by George Washington University out of Washington, D.C. to be a contract PA for the Army. And he actually lived over in Qatar. And then when he came home, he was hired on full-time by the Army at Fort Riley in Junction City, Kansas. And that's where he retired a year and a half ago. And he actually was able to retire with full military benefits because he worked there for almost 20 years with our service members. And I always thought that was so cool. But the coolest moment of it was seeing it all come together. I actually lost my dad in July. And all my listeners here on Maverick know that. But getting to see it all come together at the end and the military services for him, and now having to go through the paperwork as far as those benefits for my mother go as well, it is incredible to see it, because that was such an important part of his life, and he was so proud of it. And so getting to pay homage to him at his funeral was just beautiful. But on the other hand, we do forget about those forgotten things that don't get taken care of. And my mother is actually reaping the benefits of that afterwards. It's very hard. and the VA can be loosely beneficial. And so I'm so glad that you are shining a light on our service members. And even after retirement, it's really hard for them to find their path, whether it be emotionally, family wise, financially. It's a big hit,
As a Gen Xer, I was raised by a Vietnam veteran. My father was a Vietnam veteran. First of all, sorry for your loss. My dad passed away. My dad passed away this year. Will be November 13th. Will be 21 years since my dad passed away at the age of 47.
Yeah,
from
my
cancer.
Dad was quite young himself. Yeah.
It was from cancer that that they say it basically formed because he was basically in the Agent Orange actions in Vietnam, So, I grew up with a Vietnam veteran as a dad, all of his friends, obviously Vietnam veterans. And so seeing all the things that they went through and the hardships, and my dad, I remember when the movie Platoon came out way back in the day, my dad we went to the movies and saw it, and it was so realistic that he would wake up screaming in night terrors for weeks after that, because it was just like the mental, it just brought back all the mental anguish and stress of being in war. And that's something that people have never been in war, or even in a fight, for that matter, can't really understand. And I watched my dad go through it, and it was, for us to sit down and write these lyrics, and people will hear it when they hear the song, that we see so many homeless veterans, which is a big thing for us. There's not a single reason on earth that anybody within the United States government can give me as to why we have a homeless veteran problem. These men and women should be taken care of from the day that, that's the deal.
When they sign on the dotted line. Yeah.
When they 100%. Sign on the line, it's like, I will give you my everything if you give me your everything.
Yeah.
And so that's a big deal for us. Obviously, another big deal for us is we've actually partnered with our friends. 22 Kill is now called One Tribe Foundation.
Okay.
And One Tribe Foundation is, their big thing is to support and help veterans and, lower the rate of veteran suicide and all the things that these men and women go through when they come home and they don't get the treatment that they deserve. So we've actually partnered with One Tribe Foundation. They're a fantastic organization. And this year they open it up to also policemen, firefighters, first responders, all these people, because the stress level that they're under creates so much anxiety, depression, and sends them into a spiral sometimes. So, that's the people they take care of, and we want to help take care of them because they take care of the people who take care of us.
Good for you. I love that. I always preach mental health is healthcare.
100%. 100% it is.
Thing. It is just, you break your arm, you break your mind. It said they're
100%
the same thing. So thank you so much I think for saying that.
Yeah, forgot, and here's it as a man. Let me tell you, as a man,
as a man.
Let me say, as a Gen X man, okay, we were raised, basically by the time we were 7 years old, we were running the household,
Yes.
There was nobody there for mental, emotional support.
No.
Boys don't cry. You got to be tough all the time. And it wasn't until probably the last 10 years that I was like, man, I really struggle with some things.
Right.
And I was like, I'm not going to be ashamed of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we've got to be ashamed of it. We have to get that mindset out of here. And men
I agree.
are the most affected by this and by mental health.
100%.
And I'm very passionate about it as someone who struggles with my own mental health. And then you have to watch your peers and they almost do it to themselves because they were taught that way. And we've got to get over that. We've got to share more of a life of love and understanding and healthcare, genuine, real healthcare.
And that's why I always hear Tom Hanks in my head. There's no crying in baseball,
right?
And I'm like, that's pretty much the generation
like, that's
we were
really problematic, Hank.
Yes, it is.
Oh, God.
But yeah, it's a fun time though. I love it. I mean, music is definitely an outlet for us, and that's why we released this song, and we are so excited. We recorded this up at War Room Studios with Dustin Hendricks, who is Aubrey Lynn's husband. And he's fantastic. He did a great job on the production of this song, and we're looking forward to a very I always said I want to do a cover song and release it to radio.
Uh-huh.
But our next single is actually going to be a cover, but it's going to be a duet with Ariel Hutchins. And we're
Fantastic.
not going to tell anybody what it is, but
Right.
we're going to unveil it. I want to say we're going to unveil it in early 2023 because we will be touring together on the Whiskey and Wine Tour in 2023. So that's going to be a good time as well. So that's going to be a fun time.
Well, we're going to continue on some of that, but first up on the docket, we are going to finally debut on Maverick 100.9, the first single from Sons of Bocephus and Forgotten Man. Due to copyright, Brian Broadcasting is not licensed to air this single for you in podcast form, but you can find it on any streaming and downloading service. And today's interview continues now. Maverick 100.9, you heard it here first. That was the Sons of Bocephus and Forgotten Man. I've got Will Riggs in with me now. And Will, it is so great we've talked about just about everything under the sun, music and mental health and our military. And
yes.
we've talked and talked and talked. But what I think is the funnest thing ever is you and I are one and the same. You're a radio pal of mine as well. You've got a long radio history.
Oh yeah, when I was actually in high school, I would tell you this. It goes all the way back to high school. I went to a high school that actually had a radio station in it, and
oh
you
my
had
God,
to
that would have
audition.
been my dream.
Right, it was my dream. And you of course you got to go in and audition and do a bunch of reads and stuff to see if you have. They want to see what you have, right? And so as a 17-year-old high school junior, I will admit that I was not the outgoing, charismatic individual that I am today. And so I auditioned, and the guy who runs the radio station didn't pick me because he felt that, in his words, you're probably not cut out for radio. That's his exact words when I was 17. Yeah, I was like, this sucks. So I ended up going after high school, went into regular jobs, and I decided I was going to go back to college. And I went to A&M Commerce, and I got in the radio program there. And I was hosting the Friday night show, and every fraternity on campus had our show on. And then I was probably a couple semesters in, and my wife was like, "Hey, we're going to be parents." And I was like, "Oh, snap." Yeah. So I was like, "Well, let's do something different here. Let's get these babies raising, And we had our first daughter, and then 25 months later, we had our second daughter. And so time got away from me, man. That's kind of how life is. And I always stress to people all the time, never, ever give up on your dreams.
No,
ever.
I actually got my first job in radio when I was 17. I was a senior in high school still, and it was my dream, and it's all I ever wanted. And I was looking into colleges, and you know how that is, your senior year of high school. And I finally got a hold of a man from Kansas State University, and he said, "Honey, I'm going to tell you honestly, don't go to college for this. You're never going to pay off the loans. Head over to your local station and apply for a job. I don't care if you got to clean the trash cans or toilets. Just go get to yourself a job." And I did. And I went into my first day of work, spunky as heck. It was right after St. Patrick's Day. I had green hair. And man, it was full speed ahead ever since.
I wish someone would have given me that advice. Yes. I really do.
Yeah.
But what I ended up doing was, I think my kids were probably 8 and 10. And I was like, man, I'm going back to broadcasting school. And so I actually enrolled at American Broadcasting School, which is out of Oklahoma City, but they used to have a campus in Arlington. But I did it all remote. And I was the number one out of the whole class that started at that time. I was the number one person. I started putting my air checks together, started doing all that stuff. And I sent out, and I'm looking, and then I look on Craigslist of all places, and they were hiring for a morning show host at 99.9 KMOO in Mineola, Texas, which if you're from down south, you don't know where Mineola. Mineola is literally a dot on the map in East Texas, like
which
deep
is
East
kind of
Texas.
where I'm from, like in Kansas.
Yeah,
I'm from that teeny tiny place.
So I send over all my stuff and I get an email back and we exchange emails a couple times. And keep in mind, my profession is IT. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course I'm like, okay, I'm a dad and I'm a husband. I need to see what the kind of money it is. But I knew I needed to make a change because what I was doing was very stressful. And
Yeah.
so she told me what the money was. And I was like, man, honestly, like I really want to do radio, but I don't want to do it that bad. So I turned it down. And 2 weeks later, I was just up to my ears with just frustration with my job. I was driving an hour and 45 minutes each way to work. I mean, it was just a horrible job altogether. And so I came home on a Tuesday night and I wrote her an email. Hey, if that job's still open, I'd love to come talk to you about it.
Yeah.
Evidently, I emailed her at the perfect time because they had hired another lady who had started that Monday, like the day before I emailed. She worked 2 days and quit, said, this is not for me. So
but
Wednesday
that was
morning,
perfect for you.
Right, but it was because the next morning she called me. I was probably halfway to work, and she called me, and I answered my cell phone. She said, "Hey, this is Tanya Slayton at 999 KMU. Got your email. The girl we hired just quit this morning. If you want to talk about it, we'd love to have you in today." And I was like, "I'm on my way." I literally exited the highway, went back home, changed clothes, because I was wearing business casual tie and all that jazz to work, and I was like, I'm not wearing this to a country radio station.
Nope, ball cap
interview.
and jeans, baby,
jeans and boots. Yeah, jeans and boots, and rolled out. And we had a great interview, and I started the next day.
That is incredible.
I started hosting radio the next day.
How does music fit into this? Because you've been a musician for a long time. You've even worked in several bands long before Sons of Bocephus was born. So how did that conspire there?
So the music thing is so weird. So I'm going to pull back a little more of a curtain on me. So I used to weigh 365 pounds. Wow. Again, mental health, battled depression and anxiety. And, I'm sure everybody's heard the term, eat your feelings. Yeah. I ate them all the feelings. Okay. And all the pies too, for that matter. I was working in IT at a major telecom company, and I came home from work after a 12-hour day. We're working 6 12-hour days. Came home, went to bed. In about an hour and a half, I woke up at about 1:30 in the morning, and my chest hurt. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't catch my breath. My left arm was numb. And I was telling my wife, something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. So she's like, it's just gas. Go back to sleep. And I love telling this story, but she hates it because I ended up driving myself to the hospital.
The same thing.
Well, I drove myself to the hospital, which is about 2.5 miles from our house. And I get in there and I was telling them what the problem was. I was having a mild heart attack.
Yeah.
So that was the moment I was like, holy smokes. My grandfather died at 52. My dad had already passed away at 47. I'm like, oh no, So about a year later, matter of fact, August 21st, which is Sunday, will be 14 years since I had lap band surgery.
Oh, wow.
So I had lap band and I started losing weight. And I was always a karaoke junkie, always a karaoke junkie. And my buddy Ignatius Applewhite, our lead guitar player, came out with us one night. A friend of ours owned the bar that we would do karaoke at. And he's like, dude, we need to start a band, man, because there's no reason you should be singing at a karaoke bar. Let's do a band. And I was like, that sounds awesome. Why not? Right. I'd made the commitment to myself that I'm going to do all the things I ever wanted to do in my life. And so we started playing blues and blues rock, and we had we were playing all over the place. We got to open for Kev Moe, who's an incredible blues singer. And then we started doing our own thing and playing. It kind of went from blues rock to blues rock country to more of a Southern rock vibe, which is really our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And then it got to where there was just craziness happening in music world where players want to do something different or they're not committed. And then we went through in 2016, we went through 3 bass players and 4 drummers.
Oh.
And it was a beating because you can never play shows because you're constantly trying to train the next guy to play your music.
Yeah.
And so in December 2016, I was like, I need a break. I can't. It's too frustrating to be able to do this. And so I took 2 years off, and I was an announcer for some of the racetracks in Dallas, and doing my own radio thing. And then I had the idea, hey, let's do a Southern rock tribute band. And he's like, hey, I'll do you one better. Let's do a Hank Williams Jr. tribute band because we can easily get to do the same thing. Only get to play all our favorite Hank Jr. tunes. So I was like, man, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. And so we started doing it, and it took off.
Bocephus was born.
It was. And from the first show we played, it was like, man, people were loving it. And of course, in DFW, there's a huge market for tribute bands. There's 180 different tribute bands just in DFW.
Whoa.
Yeah. So you have to really stand out. In the entire country, though, there's only 2 Hank Jr. tribute bands. There's us and a band from South Carolina. And that's it.
Oh, wow.
And so we were just gaining traction, and then COVID hit.
Oh.
And then, yeah, so we missed the last weekend of March, April, May, and June. Well, in the first weekend of June, we got a phone call from the city of Forney, which is oddly enough where I live. And they were like, hey, we're doing our Independence Day celebration, COVID or not. And I was like, cool with me. Cool. Let's do it. And they said, okay. So we opened for a band at the time. I can't remember. Oh, at the time they were called Hill Country.
Uh-huh.
You know them now as Wilder Blue. Zane and the boys came up, and we opened for Zane and them, and it was a great show. It was hot, so hot. But from July 4th, 2020, we started playing like 2-3 times a month. And then by the end of 2020, early 2021, things really started. I mean, we were playing 2 to 3 times a week, every week. And then I think the second biggest moment was around the first week of May of last year. We were playing a 3-day run, Rockwall, Amarillo, Lubbock, and 2 of our shows got rained out.
Oh.
We did sound check in Amarillo at the Starlight Ranch Event Center. I did sound check. We all went back to eat at the Big Texan, and a huge storm just blew in out of nowhere and rained out the event, which stunk. Right.
Yeah.
And then the other place, Lubbock, was getting rain, so they canceled it too. So we were bummed out. You drive all that way and never even get to play the show. So we were all bummed out. And that Monday morning, I woke up to a phone call saying, hey, man, congratulations. And I was like, for? And they're like, they just announced the Josie Music Awards, just announced all their nominees for this year's award show, and you guys are nominated for Tribute Band of the Year. And I'm like, what? Get out of town. Get out. That's not even
right
real.
When you're just on days of bummerness.
Right. The good Lord decided he was going to bless us that morning. And I knew about the Josies because Taylor D, rest in peace, young lady, she had just won Best New Artist the year before. And so I was like, man, that's kind of cool. So we started researching. I'm like, man, this is a big deal. Like at first I was like, what are the Josies, but it's really a big deal. It's the largest independent music award show in the country, or actually in the world. Sorry. And so we were debating. It was in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. If you've never been to Pigeon Forge, I suggest going. I will be an infomercial.
Duh.
I mean, look, the whole town is cool. The whole town is like a tourist attraction, and it's awesome. So we had debated, are we going or are we not going? And so it came down to, would we rather go and not win? Would we be more upset if we went and didn't win, or if we won and didn't go? Clearly, the answer was we would be more upset if we won and we didn't go. So we went. And, we got to meet all the people, and there's a lot of cool people there. And, the art category comes up, and my wife grabs my hand, and, they say, and the, Tribute Band of the Year, Sons of Bocephus. And I was like, are you effing kidding me? Like, I straight dropped that. I looked at my wife. I'm like, is this, did that just happen? and so, and I'm not like, it's not like I've never won an award before. Like I was on air personality at T3R, but this was just totally different and blew my mind. and we accepted that award, and it was so cool to come home with that. And from that moment, it's been such a big deal. Like, we literally have only had 2 weeks off since the 1st of February this year. We're playing everywhere. It's awesome. We leave tonight. We go to Little Rock, Arkansas, Perryville, Missouri tomorrow, Hot Springs, Arkansas on Saturday. I mean, it's like a nonstop whirlwind. We play with Josh Turner next week.
Fantastic.
So it has been an absolute fun run. We actually added, like the Forgotten Band, we added it to the show earlier this year, and it was a huge response for people. We had veterans thanking us for the song and crying, and so that's why we released it to radio. And it all comes together because Hank Jr. is a very, very patriotic individual, as we all know.
Yeah.
And so we were like, well, if we're gonna carry his banner and his flag, that we need to carry all of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why we do it, man. It's a good time.
Well, I tell you what, before Zoom kicks us off here, because I'm too poor for pro, I want to know what else is on the way. Okay, so 2023, we got a new single and a new tour with my girl, Ariel Hutchins and the Sons of Bocephus.
Yes, that's cool. Going to be so much fun. Yeah, the Whiskey and Wine Tour.
Whiskey and Wine Tour, and possibly more music just from Sons of Bocephus as well.
Oh yeah, we have actually we've been working on a lot of new songs that we did. Our sound is very honky tonk, which makes us perfect for what we do with the Hank Jr. stuff. Mm-hmm. But there will be we're actually going to record an entire album, and they're very honky tonk and very, everybody loves the 80s, 85, like say 88 to 96, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That everybody loves that version. We're more of that. If we played our music, you would think you're watching. It was the soundtrack to Urban Cowboy.
Yeah,
that's kind of our honky tonk vibe, and that's what we like to do.
Oh, I want everybody to please go follow Sons of Bocephus. They've got new music out now. Forgotten Man is out now. You can help them in their charity efforts and more. And not to mention, go see them on the road. Will Riggs, it has been just phenomenal catching up with you, my friend. Thank you for debuting this new single on Maverick.
Oh, thank you so much, Corliss. We appreciate it so much. And we hope everybody likes the song, and you can obviously listen to it right there on Maverick. But if you in the car or you want to listen to it privately, obviously it's on all streaming platforms as well. And speaking of Forgotten Man, music video will be out, I want to say, in about 2 weeks. So we filmed that in Shawnee, Oklahoma just a couple of weeks ago. So that should be coming out very, very soon as well.
Follow.
Yes, ma'am.